Hey there, Amplifiers. Manny Torres, and today I'm excited to chat with Michael Zipursky. Michael is the co-founder and CEO of Consulting Success, where they specialize in helping consulting business owners to the next level of growth in their business. He has advised organizations like Financial Times, Dow Jones, RBC, and helped Panasonic launch new products into global markets. More importantly, he's helped over 1,200 consultants from around the world in over 75 industries add 6 and 7 figures to their annual revenues. Tens of thousands of consultants read his weekly consulting newsletter, and he is the author of 4 books on business and consulting. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hey, Manny. Thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
Well, Michael, I'm really excited to hear more about your story. I've read a lot about you, and it seems like you've got a lot of insights to share with our audience. I'd love to start with what inspired you to help consulting business owners?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a consulting business owner myself. So if we go back in time, almost 20 years now, I was running different consulting businesses. My cousin Sam, who's my co-founder at Consulting Success, we've built multiple businesses together. We've sold some businesses together over the years. A line that kind of ran through many of these is that they were professional services consulting businesses. And so we were at a family barbecue one year, many years ago. And at that point, we were working on different businesses, but we said we should do something together again, but this time we should do it online. And that was really because both of us love travel. We love seeing the world. We had this image of just living and working anywhere that we wanted to. And this was way before the idea of, like working remote and digital nomads. Before all that was kind of popular, that's what we were thinking about. And what we realized is that where we had the most kind of experience was actually running different consulting businesses. And so the concept was, let's share what we've learned. There was no business idea directly. We just thought if we start sharing our experiences of mistakes we've made, lessons we've learned, best practices, and as part of that journey, kind of sharing what we have experienced, that maybe that would benefit others, that we could help them to avoid a lot of the mistakes that we'd made. We could help them to accelerate their success. And that's really how Consulting Success was born, is we just started to share a lot, and a community, was built. People started reaching out and saying, is there a way that you can help me to grow my consulting business? And initially, we didn't have a way to do that, but we decided that we'd create one. And that led to us developing an online program. And then people said, this is great. Is there a way to work more closely with you? And we said, okay, we'll create a coaching program, because we didn't have one. And so today, each of those programs, we've had about 1,400 people go through the first one. We've had about 1,200 go through our Clarity coaching program. Our team is, much different today. The business has grown significantly since those early years. But one thing that has remained the same is that we've always been dedicated and committed to working exclusively with consulting business owners that really want to transform their business and really want to create business that they can be proud of, that gives them a lot more freedom, flexibility, income, and just overall success.
Well, that's a great story. And it's wonderful to hear how you had that idea and kind of sparked it and nurtured it into what it is today. Obviously, there's ups and downs on any journey, and especially when you're starting something new. What are some of those challenges that you encountered through your journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them, Manny. I think anyone that's been in business for a couple of decades is definitely going to have a few wounds or experiences. And I think the first thing that I should share is that this is not past tense, meaning that we experience this at different times in the business. There's always going to be challenges. It's just that the type of challenge might be different, or the impact that it can have on your business, right? So we're still facing new challenges, but that's what business is about, is when you encounter a challenge, you figure out how to overcome that challenge. But I mean, in the early days, I remember actually I had a business in Japan, a consulting business, and I was living in Osaka. I got called by one of our partners that the client that we were working with, this is a very large, multi-billion-dollar organization, was unhappy with some aspect of the work, and they were up in Tokyo. So, fast forward, I had to jump on a bullet train, what they call the Shinkansen in Japan, head up to Tokyo and meet with that client. And if anyone's done business in Japan, you're familiar with meetings can often take a very long time. So 4 or 5 hours, later, really not accomplishing much, but we were able to walk out of that room feeling like we had kept that relationship intact. Looking back, and I think for probably anyone, listening or watching this, you might think like, well, that doesn't sound like anything big, but I was in my early 20s at that point, maybe 21, 22. And for me, that was a really big blow to my kind of self-confidence and just feeling like, wow, did we just let down a client? Like, can I recover from this? And so I think what's interesting is that the benefit of hindsight, right? Fast forward a week or two after that situation, it was no big deal. Life went on, but in that moment, it felt like a really big deal, and it was quite jarring. And so, that was one example. Another example is we had a different business that we had invested. Probably if we add in inflation in today's dollars, maybe it was $30,000 give or take, and we went to the market with it, and we learned that what we had built, 95% of that nobody wanted. And so that was a mistake that, actually was before the previous one that I mentioned. And so it was, a painful mistake because we had really spent too much time building, trying to add all these features, thinking that we knew what the market wanted. But when we actually went to market, we learned very quickly that that's not what they wanted. So the positive from that story was that it was a really great lesson, which I still always share with people today, which is not to spend time building something before you actually talk to the market that might want to purchase it. I think with AI and technology, that's a little bit different today because you can move much faster than you could back in those days, and you can rapidly test things. But I still see a lot of people building stuff and spending way too long in the comfort of building without actually getting out of the building to talk to people who would actually want to buy. So for us, it was fortunate that we were able to turn that around. We were able to turn that business profitable and ultimately exited that business when it was acquired, but it was still a painful lesson to learn at that time.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I just had that same conversation with someone else who was building a platform. And similarly, by the time they were ready to launch it, there were competitors there. So it is really important to get that feedback sooner so that you can actually get some traction going. You mentioned a couple of challenges, and you mentioned that there's also a lot of others that you also encountered. What keeps you going through those challenges as you encounter them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, if I kind of turn the clock back, one of the biggest drivers in my life early on was sports. I mean, even going back even before that, I had spent time living in the Middle East growing up. And when I came back to North America, to Canada specifically, it was to a different city. I did not speak English. I did not know anyone. And really where I channeled a lot of my energy at that time was into sports. It's where I felt I could kind of stand out. I could, put my stake in the ground and say, like, I'm good at this, accept me. And because I definitely felt like an outsider at that time. And so sports for me was everything. I mean, from martial arts to rugby to baseball, soccer, track and field, I did very competitively. That was my life. And I think that taught me the importance of, like, if you put your mind to it, if you put the work in, you can achieve whatever you want. And so I carried that from sports in my earlier years into even academics. I was never really into school. I didn't enjoy school. Even when I got to university, I wanted to be out, in the world doing business. But even in my early days of college, I remember being able to take that mindset of, like, no, I can accomplish anything that I want. I just need to want it enough and need to figure out how to do it. And with that mindset, I was able to change programs, to talk to, the director or the head of a department, say, like, I was doing a program that was initially called Pacific Rim Studies. So it was all about, different Asian countries, because I had a real interest in Asia, but it was very focused on like history and geography and religions. But it didn't have any business. And I wanted to study business courses. I wanted to do international law. I wanted to do marketing. I wanted to do accounting. I didn't want to do accounting, but I needed, so certain things. And so I saw a different vision for that program. I thought, if I can learn more about business and apply that to Asia, then this is a really great direction for me, because then I can do business in Asia. That's not what they didn't offer that. But by going to the head of the program and kind of making my case, they actually changed it and they opened that up. And that was not only beneficial for me, but for other friends that were also kind of, interested in that same thing. But that's just one example. But the mindset is really what I keep coming back to, is just understanding that when you get knocked down, when you have a challenge, it's really going to feel like a challenge in that moment. But if you fast forward, right, go into the future, a week, 2 weeks, a month, you're likely not going to feel like that challenge was really as hard as you felt it in that moment. And so as long as you have a why, as long as you're clear about, what you want to get to, I think it's also, Manny, for me, it's the expectation that challenges are going to come. It's not a question of like, will they come? It's just a question of when they'll come. And then when they do come, are you prepared to do what you need to do to overcome them and keep moving forward? And so to me, that's a really important thing for anyone. It doesn't matter what stage of business you're in, whether you're brand new to business or you've been running a company for decades. I think that's ultimately what separates, or at least a big factor, what separates those who struggle from those who succeed is, are you measuring your success just based on that moment or a very short time scale? Or are you opening up for the long term and seeing that, yeah, like maybe there was a period where business was down for a little bit, but where are you today and what is the trajectory of where you're going? And if you can stay positive and and keep taking action, I think you can really overcome anything.
I love that. And I coach water polo, so I love the sports analogy of getting through those challenges and being able to adapt and find ways to be successful. And I think a lot of people overlook some of those things when they see sports and business. And it's really great that you make that connection and talk about not only does it give you a way out that initial time, but it builds the resilience. And I think it also builds that vision to look ahead and say, what am I not seeing that may be coming down the pipe that could be a challenge? How can I anticipate that and make it less impactful when it happens? So I really like the way that you position that. One thing I'd like to transition to is you were talking about overcoming those challenges intrinsically with some of the things that you learned from sports. You also mentioned that things like hiring experienced consultants and mentors has been a big impact in your business.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, this is also going back probably 17 or so years ago, but I remember the first time that we hired or engaged a business coach, somebody to help us. And it was a lot of money. It felt like a really big risk, but I knew very quickly after we made that commitment that it was going to be one of the best things that we've ever done. And, now to this point, we've spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years in working with coaches and mentors and really trying to find people who have the experience and have been through what we are working to achieve, right? You can figure a lot of stuff out yourself, but you're probably going to make a lot more mistakes. It's probably going to take you a lot longer. And ultimately, right, you might do it in the least efficient way. And so the mindset that I have and have had for quite some time, but early on, I certainly didn't have, it's the best investment that you can make is the investment into yourself and into your business. And so that's really been a game changer for us. As I mentioned, engaged and worked with a lot of different coaches and programs. And not all of them have been amazing, but even some of the experiences that were not great, as an example, without naming names, we were in a program many years ago with someone quite high profile at that time. And the program was a complete disappointment. It didn't align with what we wanted or needed. We felt like we were treated more like a number or a transaction than a real relationship. But we learned some things from that. And one of the things that we learned from it was that this is the exact type of program we do not want to have ourselves. And that's really part of that was kind of what led us to creating the Clarity Coaching Program, which is what we offer at Consulting Success, and structuring in a way where we really engage very deeply with people. We don't want people to feel like just a customer or a transaction or a number. We provide one-to-one coaching as part of this. The coaching is the product. The transformation that we create with our clients is really about working very closely with them, understanding their situation, creating customized plans and helping them to, support them to implement those and to be successful with them. So I think that's just another thing that I've really opened myself up to over the years, which is even if something doesn't look like it's what you were expecting or wanting, there's still always something that you can learn from that. And so just to kind of finish that whole point, Manny, is that, yeah, we've been very big believers in investing in ourselves. I think it's also, since we run a coaching program, it's one of these things like you got to eat your own dog food. We don't just say that coaching is something that you should do. We believe that coaching is something that, we should continue doing. And we're always doing that, even today. And I think for the foreseeable future, I can't imagine not. And just, look around at anyone who's at peak performance or high levels of performance, whether they're in the business world or they're in sports or they're in the arts. Almost everyone that is at the top of their game has somebody that is there to guide them, to support them, to challenge them. And that's, I think, really what a great coach or advisor can provide.
That's a great point, Michael. And I think there's something too, when you invest your hard-earned money into something, the likelihood that you're going to take the action increases because you feel like you've got a vested interest.
Definitely.
Now, mentors and coaches are one way that you can learn. Another way is books. Is there a specific book that's made a real difference for you?
Yeah. I know you mentioned this before we hit the record button, and if I took you into my library, you'd see that I really like books. And so it's hard to choose one book, but a book that I've recommended to many people and I always kind of keep coming back to is a book by Dusan Jukic, I believe is how you say his name, but the book is called Straight Line Leadership. And this book, maybe in some circles it's known, but I'm still always surprised by the number of people that have never heard it before. or heard of it. And it was very powerful for me initially. I thought it was going to be about leadership in terms of leading teams and kind of the more classical, traditional way of looking at leadership. But the book is actually about leadership of self. It's about how do you lead yourself, and how do you take action. And so it's definitely a book that encapsulates or touches on mindset, but it also, I think, is really about just the overall presence that you have as an individual and how you want to show up in the world. So that's one book that I've always enjoyed. And yeah, there's many others that I'm still always reading and learning from people going even today.
I'm going to add that to my wish list or my book list there, because that's definitely one that I haven't heard. I hear a lot of the same ones over and over, so it's refreshing to hear a new one. Michael, you've accomplished a lot of things. You worked with some great brands. You've done great things with your business. But how do you define success beyond the numbers?
What's most important for me is my family, my kids, the people that are around me. And for me, success is really the ability to be free, the ability to take care of the people that I love. A big part of success is also the impact that we get to have on many people. I mean, one of the reasons why we've remained and spent so many years in the consulting world and working with consulting business owners is because consulting is one of these areas that has such a big ripple effect. Like when we help a consultant or their business or their team to succeed, it's not only them becoming more successful or them making more money, or not only even just their direct employees or team members, but the organizations that they work with, whether a for-profit or a nonprofit, it helps that organization become more successful. And that then means that all of the employees that are inside of that organization also benefit from that organization being more successful. So it's like when you throw a rock or something into a lake or a body of water, right? That ripple effect, it just kind of keeps going out. That's something that I've always appreciated about the world of consulting, or the impact that a consultant or a coach or an advisor can have. But yeah, that's really how I look at it. I mean, beyond the financials, it's just that freedom. It's the ability to do the things that you want, to spend time the way that you want to spend it. Most importantly, to be with the people that you truly love and care about.
I like that. We're very similar. The rising tide lifts all ships. Being able to help others, and then just make a more robust community and group of people that can help one another and lift people up versus pushing people down. I like that philosophy a lot. Michael, you've shared a lot of insights. Is there something else that you've learned along your journey that you feel could help someone that's along their journey as that consultant?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. If we talk about consulting specifically, there's a lot of things that I could definitely talk on, just because I really love helping people with this. But I think I'll give you two. So, and these can apply both for people that are earlier stage as well as those that have been, running, let's say, multi-million-dollar consulting businesses. The first is that complexity doesn't scale. Oftentimes people think they need to add more, do more in order to grow their business or to grow their revenues. But my observation is that it's actually the opposite, that you need to generally strip away a lot of what you're doing, provide less, provide it to fewer people in terms of who you're targeting. And that's the way to grow. That's the way to scale. That's the way to do it also in a more manageable way. A lot of people talk about growing their revenue and making more money, and all that's great. But at what expense? If the quality of your life is going down, if you don't have time to take care of your health or to be with your kids or to, whatever it might be, because you're trying to chase after success so hard, but that success just kind of continues to feel elusive and the quality of your life suffers, then in my world or my life, that's not worth it. It's really important that, to me, and this is what I share with clients as well, is that you always put your lifestyle at the top. So you get really clear about what is meaningful for you. How do you want your life to look and to be? And then you structure your business to support that. And again, coming back to complexity doesn't scale, it's usually about simplifying things that will help you to see better results and support the lifestyle that you want. So that's number one. Number two, just a really common kind of error or mistake that I see people making, which ties into complexity doesn't scale, is that people try and go after too many different types of clients. They're not focused on who their real dream ideal client is. And oftentimes what's playing into that is the scarcity versus the abundance mindset, right? So the belief that there isn't enough and the more is better. And so you need to kind of go wider and broader. When people, and we do this with clients, quite often, like just take them through the math of, well, what's your revenue goals and how many clients do you actually need? And what is the market size? And for most people in the consulting world, they're focused on value, not volume. They don't need, hundreds or thousands of clients. They need 8, 10, 15, 20. And so almost any market can support that. And that just means that you can actually be much more focused and much more relevant to a smaller group of people when you're clear on who they are and why those are the right ones. So, being able to think strategically about that kind of stuff. And once you get it, you get a lot more clarity, which is why we call the program the Clarity Coaching Program, because we just believe getting clarity is so important. It gives you more confidence. And when you're showing up more confidently, you tend to be more successful, take more action, win more deals, so on and so forth. But those are just a couple.
Well, I want to touch back on the first one you mentioned about complexity, because what we see a lot is people are trying to deliver so much value and maybe they don't value themselves as much as they should. So they're trying to stuff as much into either a program or services as they can.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendation for those types of people that are feeling like they need to put more things in versus bringing it back to the simple things that can deliver value and will actually be implemented and followed through all the way to completion?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point, Manny. And I've been guilty of this myself. And I think at times we still are, because the mindset that I have is always wanting to give more. It's, to be more valuable, to help clients to get greater results. And I think the error that is often made is that value for many people, they equate that with more stuff, right? So it's, let's just give more and more and more and more. The problem with that is that's not really what clients want. We might think that that's what they want. They might think that's what they want at times, but what a client really wants is an outcome. And so I think what I would offer to people to at least consider is do a test. So take whatever you have. You might have a lot of stuff, and maybe to simplify that, just think about how can I maybe offer a smaller, not necessarily price-wise smaller, but something that is smaller in scope, just to kind of get to the real core or the fundamentals of what you believe would create a positive outcome for the client, and run that and see what the results are. And if you find that clients actually get the same or better results, then it's a win. Because even if they get the same level of results that they're getting right now, as long as that's a good level of results, it probably means that it's much more efficient and therefore profitable for you to offer. And so that's a win for you. But ideally, it becomes even better for them, where they get greater results, because they're not swimming around in as much bloat and waste and information everywhere. They don't feel like they have to consume everything. They just get to focus on taking whatever actions are necessary to create the outcome that they want. And so that's really the ideal or optimal outcome, where it's a win for you internally and it's a win for the client as well.
I like that, Michael, because I've been part of programs and definitely have also shared things with clients, and sometimes you can see the overwhelm in their face. And as you said, if there's too many things, you end up with a lot of unfinished bridges where they get started, they stop, they start, they stop, but they don't actually complete things. Michael, I feel like we could continue talking all day, but I know I want to be respectful of your time. I know you have a ton of great resources on your website. What's the best place for someone to go to if they're a consultant or they're considering going down that path? Where should they go to learn more about you and your business?
Yeah, I mean, home base for everything is consultingsuccess.com. You can find the Consulting Success podcast there, as well as everywhere that people listen to podcasts. We have our YouTube channel for Consulting Success. Feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn. Just shoot a little note over, and happy to connect and to help any way that I can. We've also put together something recently which might be of interest to people, especially those that are in the world of consulting, and it's what we call kind of your superpower assessment. And what it does is we've identified specific archetypes based on almost like a personality test, but for consultants. So if you want to see why you are likely showing up the way that you are, or what are your strengths or your weaknesses, then you can go to consultingsuccess.com/superpower. It's a free assessment. You can just go through it, answer a few questions, and you'll kind of better understand who you are and what potential advantages you have that you can extract and start to use to help to grow your business.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate those insights, and make sure if you're listening to check out those resources that he's mentioned on his website. Thank you so much for being here today, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me, Manny.
To show your support, take a moment to amplify this message by sharing it online. To connect with me or gain more business growth insights, visit www.growthamplifiers.com. Thank you for your support.